Welcome to OOO, an out of ordinary podcast where we dig deep into case studies and the nitty gritty of Web3 marketing. You'll find here all the amazing people that are building Web3, so stick to us as we address their marketing secrets and learn how to build amazing products and brands. Hello everyone, I'm Alex, your fellow Web3 marketer and the host of an out of ordinary podcast. This is episode 54. I'm on a mission to make this podcast your go-to place when it comes to answering anything Web3 marketing related. You can always support the show both on Patreon and Unisub with donations in fiat or crypto, or simply collect the last 2 episodes and get a prize for it as well. And if you can't donate, that's totally fine. Send this episode to a friend, leave a 5-star review, or post about it on social media. Every action matters. Now, let me introduce you to my guest. Eva is the head of growth at Persona.io. Persona is Web3's fastest growing ad network and is revolutionizing Web3 advertising through the power of on-chain data. Through a curated network, your ads will be matched to high-quality dApps, allowing you to reach a targeted list of wallets. Persona is running campaigns for some of the biggest Web3 brands such as PayPal, MetaMask, Immutable, Hashflow, BitGet, and many more. Hi, Eva. How are you?
Hi, Alex. I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for being with me today. I'm so excited to be recording this episode. I think it's going to be a super high interest for a lot of the people that are listening to this episode. And to kind of kick it off, would you like to tell us a bit about yourself and how you got into Web3?
Sure, absolutely. Thank you for having me. Pleasure being here as well. My story starts back in 2015. My background is from fintech, so I've been mostly involved in fintech industry for a few years before entering the Web3 space. So back in 2015, I started learning a bit more about Bitcoin. Still wasn't sold when it comes to buying it at that time, mostly because of the idea of being totally unregulated. Because of fintech, I was more into regulated, let's say, derivatives or assets. So Bitcoin seemed too wild at that time. And in 2017, still being in the fintech space, I started getting more involved in also crypto derivatives. So at that time, I was leading a sales team and I started introducing crypto assets to them, explaining a bit more of the utility and how important it is to have utility behind all these tokens and not just investing in a token because of the current fad, and so on. So that was the entry to investments as well for me back in 2017. It was still wild, I'll say, but it was a little bit better than 2015. 2021, I got a little bit more into tokenization and specifically IP and artists and NFTs, specifically real world assets as well. And that led me to also understanding a bit better on new project launches as well. I was involved in also a launchpad and incubator and currently leading growth with Persona, again, focusing on projects launching, projects getting introduced into the space, acquiring new users, gamers, and so on.
So now you're leading growth at Persona. What does Persona do?
Mm-hmm. So Persona is a programmatic ad network. What we basically do is we support companies that are entering the Web3 space or that are already large in the space that want to increase their user base, transacting users, gamers, and so on. So we help advertisers place their banner ads on wallet-aware publishers. So it's a little bit different than traditional banner ads because we focus on wallet-aware publishers, which means that the user has already connected their wallet on that specific dApp, and they are actively engaging with the platform. So this way, whatever banners we show, they have better results, and they will receive better, let's say, transacting users or higher click-through rates for these advertisers that we support. So as a programmatic ad network, we support advertisers and publishers, so both ends of the process.
Can you tell us a bit about how Web3 advertising, more about Web3 advertising and how it differs from traditional advertising methods?
Mm-hmm. Yes. So let's say traditional advertising focuses more on promoting a specific product or project. Web3 advertising is similar to that. The difference is how they engage the users. So in Web3 advertising, incentivization is very, very important. So there's always an incentive either placed on the banner or written if it's a native ad, right? Not a banner ad. So there's always the idea of incentivization for the end user. And I think that's why if you look at all type of marketing around Web3, it's always
to reward the end user, either with airdrops or certain rewards if you participate in, let's say, staking. So there are always incentivized actions. I think that would be the number one difference from traditional Web3 marketing or traditional marketing.
What type of projects do you guys usually work with, and what criteria do you consider when selecting your partners?
We work with all type of projects. We are sector agnostic and chain agnostic. So our range is very open. We've helped large brands like MetaMask or PayPal, and smaller also projects that are currently either launching their project or having an IDO. So all sorts of projects. And in terms of what was the second part? Sorry.
What criteria do you consider when selecting this partner?
So the criteria is, first of all, the stage of development. So where does this project currently stand? How far they are on launching their project. Number two is, what are their current marketing efforts? So have they created a strong strategy on how to promote their brand or their product? And finally, what are their expectations? So we have different kind of projects that come to us. Sometimes it's just for brand awareness, and sometimes it's to convert users or gamers or whatever they're launching. So depending on what are their expectations with these kind of campaigns, their call to action, for example.
A question I have not heard, but I think it kind of popped in my head now that you were talking, is like, what do you think, what kind of companies use advertising in Web3 more? Is it like DeFi? Is it like gaming projects? And which ones do you feel like they convert the best?
This is a very interesting and very good question, because the truth is that the one that usually launch the most are DeFi projects, and it's very simple, is because they have the budget, right? They have the budget to launch marketing campaigns compared to a gaming project. So launching or building a game in Web3 is pretty expensive and tedious, and it takes time, needs a lot of effort and work. Compared to a DeFi project, which is also takes time, right? And it needs work. But at the same time, it's a little bit faster to have revenue as a company when you have a DeFi protocol or DeFi product. So sometimes, or most of the time, we see that DeFi projects have the largest budgets to spend. And then gaming projects, they have smaller budgets, but sometimes they do even better, because the people that are participating in Web3, many times gamers, they're very active in the space. So I think gaming projects, even though they have smaller budgets, sometimes they get the best results in the space, which is very interesting. And then maybe it has to do also with competition. So we have currently so many DeFi projects. So there's a very strong competition on having, the best brand out there, the best product out there, compared to games, which is, there is still competition, but it's still early for them in terms of development, right? They're still building. Some of these products are chunky, the games are not ready, or they're not ready to play, or still just a video, a demo. So that's what I've observed so far. DeFi projects have budget, but they have also high competition. They perform well, but they need also consistency when it comes to launching a campaign.
Like everything in marketing, I would guess.
Oh yeah, 100%.
How do platforms like Google Ads and Twitter Ads integrate into the Web3 ecosystem? And what considerations should marketers keep in mind when utilizing these channels?
Yeah, so you see a lot of projects try Twitter Ads, mostly because it's cheaper. So that's the main reason. It's the easiest to plug and play, as we say. But at the same time, it doesn't necessarily bring you the best results, because it's very generic. So even though there are companies that claim to target specific Web3 users when you run Twitter campaigns, the truth is that you end up with a lot of botted users, users that are not so interested in your product. They're just hunting an airdrop, for example. So this is the result with Twitter. And at the same time, Google Ads can be very, very limiting when it comes to Web3 projects. So that's something we see all the time. There is not a lot of visibility, or a lot of times they're banned, these kind of ads, Web3 ads. So these are some of the limitations in the space that we see.
One of the reasons why I ask this question is because I've seen quite a lot of roles of performance marketers right now popping up in the space. So that was one of the reasons why I was very curious on what marketers should really be paying attention to. Something else I wanted to ask you is also, like, you already mentioned that like engage to earn is something that's quite big or Web3 advertising. So I wanted to ask, like, engage to earn ads are gaining quite a lot of traction, and I wanted to see, like, if you could explain how they work and maybe give some examples or strategies of incentivizing users to engage with these ads.
So a lot of times, as we've seen, the incentivization is big. So a lot of platforms are looking for ad networks that offer this kind of ads. So we are currently piloting engage to earn ads, which means that the publisher will be able to reward their end user. So instead of just taking whatever profits and monetizing their user base, they'll be able to reward them instead. This way, we're going back to the values of Web3. Initially, the value of Web3 was also ownership and was also transparency, being able to own your own data, generally the value of ownership, right? So you see currently a lot of platforms that are interested to use engage to earn ads in order to monetize their traffic, but also offer something to the end user. And that is also an acquisition strategy for them. So the end user knows that if I visit this platform and engage with the ad, I also receive or have some kind of passive income. So it's good for everyone. That's the idea of engage to earn ads. Everyone is happy with it. The advertiser is happy because their ads are seen and people are engaging with it. The publisher is happy because they're making something out of it. And then the end user is also happy because they are also profiting from engaging with the ad. So it gives, let's say, ownership to everyone, and it meets the needs for everyone in a way.
What is the quality of these users? Cats. What is the quality of these users? And this is something that I'm very curious about. And also, like, how do you manage to make sure that, like, you keep the quality of these users and you don't attract a lot of people that just want to collect like tokens, like token hunt?
Yeah, that's very common, and it's still pretty similar in the space, mostly because we're currently kind of recycling the same users. So the space is growing, but not with the speed that we want to. People talk always about mass adoption. We are, I would say, years away from mass adoption. We're headed there, but we're still far away. And the idea of a better quality user comes from also having better quality products. Then you're going to lead to also new user, fresh user, right? Fresh blood in the industry. But currently the idea of an airdrop hunter and the way to filter them is through our platform. So we've created a dashboard where the advertiser can choose specific type of personas. So maybe a product wants to, right, practice airdrop, an airdrop campaign, so they can choose an airdrop type of user, or what we call a DeFi degen. So that's a persona that we have as an option. So we can filter through our dashboard the specific kind of users, and you can target someone according to their on-chain activity. So not just any type of user, but you can choose, for example, long-term investors or early adopters or metaverse enthusiasts. That can help you choose a different type of user. I'm not going to separate it into higher quality or lower quality because every user has a space, right, or on some type of campaign, but that's a way to filter them. The second way to filter them is to make sure that you're not going for a Gleam or Galaxy campaigns. Those can work well, but sometimes you end up with a lot of botted users, and that can harm also your long-term marketing strategy sometimes.
I feel like we're kind of diving deeper into the conversation. It makes me very excited because I feel like we're getting a lot of knowledge and a lot of explanations out there. And something that I think is very important for me and everybody else in Web3, and especially a lot of users, is privacy. And this is super, super important. So I wanted to know, like, how does Persona address these concerns to ensure user trust and compliance with data protection regulations? I don't know if regulation is actually like a very good word.
Yeah,
but,
precisely. I agree with you. I think the word regulation is still iffy in the space. We do follow, though, any regulations from countries when it comes to advertising, because every country has specific regulations. We don't collect any cookies. We have also specific data protections for whatever wallets we analyze. all of this data is public, right? It's not something that it's hidden. So it makes it a little bit easier to work on a programmatic ad network. But at the same time, we make sure that if there are any regulations in place for specific geolocation, that we're following that as well. So currently, Web3 is still in the gray zone in most countries. So we're good. But I think we will have to adapt soon because every country will set specific set of rules and regulations around what kind of ads you can show, in which ways, and what's needed for us to do to protect and store the data safely.
Can you maybe give us some examples on the concept of programmatic networks in Web3 advertising, and how do they facilitate ad transactions?
Mm-hmm. So programmatic ad network is basically, it's a process between an advertiser and a publisher. We create this process, and we've built this media buying process, which is automatically done. And the idea is the advertiser places ads on specific type of publishers, and usually the pricing is done through the CPM model. So how many impressions you're getting from specific publishers. There are other models currently in the Web3 space. The most common is CPM model. And we track different also KPIs. We don't track just CPMs, but that's the pricing model that we currently have.
Something else I wanted to know is regarding banner ads. You mentioned them a bit earlier, and in my experience, they're really bad. They're maybe good for like brand awareness in Web 2, but I was curious to see like how do they work in Web 3, and how do you approach banner ads campaigns in Web 3, and what strategies get the best results?
Mm-hmm. What would you say? Which ones would you say are bad? Like general banner ads or Web 3 banner ads?
In Web 2, in my experience, like they're very bad when it comes to conversion. Otherwise,
right.
It's just awareness. Like,
oh, you're right. Yeah, Web 2, because there are so many as well. So and that's the idea that we've built around Persona, is not to show our ads in publishers that are kind of flooded with a lot of ads, because that's like a more of a Web 2 type of marketing. So in Web 3, because it's still early, the idea of ad networks is still very early. We show the ads on publishers that they don't have way too many banners. So this way, the user gets enough time to explore the banner. Now, there are practices, like best practices around that. We also offer this kind of guidance to all of our advertisers. One is to not over-exaggerate the call to action. So buy now, play now, download now, like this kind of like extreme call to actions. Instead, learn more, or maybe stake here, this kind of call to actions, they do a little bit better usually. Another thing would be to match your banners with your landing page. Sometimes that does a little bit better. But definitely numbers also do very well, but not exaggerating numbers, because immediately it's a red flag for the end user that this could be a scam as well. So they are definitely best practices when it comes to banners. I think they work very, very well, especially when they are not intrusive with the background of the publisher as well. I think they do very well. You wanted to say something? Say it.
Yeah, I want to say that it feels like these best practices are more like crypto native, if you want to call them like this.
100%. Yeah. Mostly because the audience that you're targeting is crypto native audience. And sometimes you see new projects that they don't have a marketing in-house, right? A marketer in-house. So their banners, they are really bad, to put it nicely. They're really, really bad. So we usually help them, because it's also sad for the project itself. So the project can be great, but then they don't have this idea of branding, and they don't understand how to brand themselves properly. So sometimes you see it and it doesn't look so nice. So we always support them also with some kind of improvements around their banners as well.
All right, let's take a quick break and introduce you to a game changer in the lead generation arena, Dealfront. Now, we all know the struggle of identifying those elusive websites visitors and turning them into valuable leads. But what if I told you there's a tool that not only promises but delivers on supercharging your lead generation and sales efforts? Imagine having the power to identify companies visiting your website, track their behavior in real time, and seamlessly integrate it all with your CRM. Dealfront is not just a tool, it's your secret weapon for efficient and targeted lead engagement. So what sets it apart? Its revenue engine is fueled by live European data in multiple languages, providing you with insights and access that other tools simply can't match. No more struggling to find the right decision makers. With Dealfront, it's as easy as a few clicks. Here's the magic. With Dealfront, you can harness 3 layers of data: market signals, web visitors, and EU company databases. And there's no need to worry about compliance. Dealfront meets Europe's strict standards, ensuring GDPR compliance competitors simply can't match. Ready to revolutionize your approach to leads and deals? Grab your free demo today at dealfront.com. That's DEALFRONT.com. Don't miss out on the future of successful deal making with Dealfront. Probably you can contradict me here, but I would have sworn that the majority of the people that are coming with you, they have at least a marketing person in their team. Because I think this would be like the only people that like know a bit about like this kind of advertising in Web3. Otherwise, like I'm not so sure like how, in my experience, Web3 founders are a bit like YOLO. They don't really understand much about Web3 or like Web3 marketing. And I don't know if I told you right before this call, but like I felt like before everybody was asking, like they're like, "Oh, you do marketing, so you do social media. Oh, you do marketing, so you do influencer campaigns." I'm like, no, like marketing is so much more than that. Like you can't put me in like such a small box. And I feel like this is the understanding of these people, and that's why I wanted to ask you this.
Yeah, it's so true. Most of the time, the ones that we have both. We have the ones that have a strong marketing team. As I mentioned, like we work with some large brands and they know exactly what they're doing. And you see the difference of building a brand and people that they don't understand what building a brand means or a brand name. And sometimes they come with like one person in charge, but that person could be a community manager or content manager, not necessarily relevant when it comes to branding or marketing, but it's a bit better than having no one. Sometimes you can work directly with the co-founders or founders, right? And that's also tough because they're extremely demanding, but they have no understanding of marketing. So it really depends on the project, but you see, as you said, like YOLO is like their middle name sometimes. So, which is good or bad, you know, it's like sometimes can be very creative when you have people that they don't have something specific in mind, but other times can lead into a big mess and a wasted budget as well. Right.
Yeah. I mean, that is the main issue. I think many times, in my opinion, at least. So to kind of, I feel like I'm getting a bit more specific right now, and to talk about like marketers that have an idea of like what they're doing. What would be some essential steps and considerations they should be aware of, including budgets and planning when they would use something like Persona?
Number one, I would say in terms of budgets, it's first to manage to have a specific marketing plan, not only with Persona, but general marketing plan. Like all the marketing efforts are aligned. I think that gives the best results when you manage either if you have like, let's say Twitter campaigns or KOL campaigns or banner ads, all of these things, they should be aligned and that will bring you the best results. Number two would be also consistency, as we spoke before. So consistency is, I think, the most important thing, because you see sometimes projects, they come with a budget, whatever budget that is, and they're like, I'm going to give you this and you're going to bring miracles. Somehow you have to bring like miracles continuously, though, even if the banner ads are done or the impressions have reached your budget, right? The budget has exhausted. So I think it's important to have clear expectations, consistency. Be also a little bit more creative with the banners. That's okay compared to what others are doing, not copying all the time what others are doing. And managing all efforts, marketing efforts, aligning them together. I think that also brings best results. And again, using Persona, you don't pay for it. Using our dashboards, you don't pay for it. You are just using your budget towards the impressions that you want to buy and our inventory that you want to buy. So that's the first thing to keep in mind, that there are no charges for using our product, only to show the banners on specific type of publishers.
What would be the minimum campaign you would, or like the minimum type for a campaign you would recommend? And also, like, what would be the minimum budget like anybody should think of, like when it comes to something like this?
Yeah, every project has a different budget. That would be the number one that I'll say. There is a minimum for everything, right? But like it really depends on the project. If the project is well known, usually, obviously, they start with larger budgets. Smaller projects to test the water, we recommend always a $5,000 budget. Like that's the bare minimum you can do. It will give you a few weeks for you to run the campaigns. That will allow a little bit of engagement, and there's a warm-up period also before the campaign's running. So before the engagement starting with the campaign running. So we always tell them 5,000, so we give enough weeks for the warm-up period and then the engagement to happen. And then if you have a larger budget, you can also break it. So the first part can be brand awareness or page visits, and the second part can be conversions, downloads, sale, whatever you're trying to track. So I would say the bare minimum would be a $5,000 budget. And I think it's the most reasonable in the space. I see that number thrown around sometimes and wasted. Definitely, if you match it with other type of marketing efforts, will be the best case scenario. But I see a lot of time projects being like $1,000 here, $500 there. And they end up just wasting pretty large budgets, just throwing them around in multiple efforts sometimes. And that usually happens when they don't have a clear strategy towards their branding.
Would like bigger budgets like push them to like more platforms? And I had another question, but I'm gonna ask after I remember it.
Definitely, having a larger budget not only allows you to show in multiple publishers, but it also allows you to show longer and to more users because you have enough budget to spend towards the impressions. So definitely, it will give you more space and also more time. And also it can give you, if you have a larger budget, you have the option to test with different type of banners. So you can test multiple type of banners and see which one performs best, and then optimize and choose like one or two that will be your main kind of campaign banners. So it gives you space also to test things out. That's the good thing with the larger budget.
The second question I had was regarding the size of the company. Like, when would you recommend these companies to like come and try this things out? Like, would it be like when they're already a bit more established and they want to like a big growth? Would it be when they're like quite early stage, just as a water system? Like if they can do like user acquisition from this side, what would be a good time?
I would say after they launch on mainnet, I think they're ready to start with their type of acquisition strategies. It all depends on what are their other marketing efforts, if they're aligning as well, or if they even have a marketing strategy in place. Definitely projects that are well established and large, they usually do best and perform best, but also projects that are just launching, they can test out and see how are users reacting or how well they're engaging with their current product. So I have seen projects change their entire, let's say, branding, change their entire not product, but change everything around their branding kit just because they saw the user engagement or they saw how difficult it is for the user to register or sign up. So change the entire flow basically of the registration. So sometimes it can help you also improve your product. It can be in many stages. Definitely after mainnet, I think that's the best stage.
What metrics or KPIs are most relevant in this context?
I would say click-through rates are number one, right? We always check that in the space, and that I think that's why Web3 programmatic ad networks do better than Web2 programmatic ad networks. We have much higher click-through rates. We have 2 to 3% sometimes click-through rates, sometimes 7% for some projects, sometimes 0.5% for other projects, depends. But we have much higher click-through rates than Web2 advertising, especially towards Web3 projects and products. So click-through rates are number one. That shows that the user is engaging with the ad and it actually is curious to visit your page or visit whatever you're trying to, whatever page you're trying to land them. And then the other one would be, of course, the cost per acquisition. So how many transacting users we acquired, how much did it cost you? And that can help you also recalculate your next campaign or change if there is anything you can change as well.
Are there any specific industries or niches that tend to benefit the most from Web3 advertising? And if yes, why?
You mean Web3 or any type of niches? Web3 niches or any type of?
Now you get me thinking.
Yeah, because I have an idea of Web3 niches, but obviously because we've helped different kind of projects. But I was also thinking Web2. Like I've seen a lot of Web2 luxury brands, like Louis Vuitton just dropped an NFT campaign, so NFT drop. So that could be an example. An NFT and Web2 traditional luxury brand utilizing Web3 tools like a programmatic ad network that uses on-chain activity, because they can use, and let's say they can check what type of NFT holders they want to target and kind of show their banner ads to those NFT holders. When it comes to Web3 projects, I would say the ones that benefit the most, that have seen the most conversion, is definitely the DeFi projects, because once the users in the space, they're curious to find newly launched projects for rewards, to 10x their initial investment and so on. And then long term, the ones that stick as users are gamers. So that you see also a lot of times gaming projects that do well, and they get users that they visit again the project and they go back to the game and they're more committed to the product as well. Yeah, let me know if I answered the question or if there's a follow up.
No. For now, for this one, no, I don't have a follow up. But I do have another question for you, and this is regarding like misconceptions and common misconceptions or myths about like Web3 advertising, and how do you address them? Or like, what would you tell anybody that's like doesn't feel very confident in using such tools for their growth?
Yeah, I think the most common would be coming also from people that are not maybe so involved in Web3, would be that general Web3 marketing or Web3 ad networks are geared towards shilling, right? It's just to shill a new token launch. It's just, and that's it. There's nothing to it. And I see lately, and I see especially from the larger brands, I see them finally using Web3 marketing for branding. So they want to see their banner everywhere. They want to be seen everywhere. They are number one. And you see them all the time in any DApp, any aggregator, any discovery platform. And that gives them legitimacy in the space. The ones that do that early, and I think that those are the winners 10 years from now, because they're already thinking of how will I become that number one in the space without worrying so much of how much I'm spending with or how many converted users did I get this month. Instead, they see this as a bold statement of a branding statement in many ways. So the first, I would say, is that most advertising in Web3 is towards shilling. That's the number one. Number two is that it's just brand awareness. You don't get converted, and that's not true. We have had campaigns for MetaMask running since September, and they have gotten a lot of transacting users, and they keep increasing their budget because they see results. So it's not necessarily just for newly launched tokens. It's also for products that have actual utility, and we use them because we do love them and so on. And they're useful at the moment. We don't know what will happen in the upcoming years, but currently some products are kind of taking over the space.
So hopefully, like as the space is going to evolve, we're going to see a lot more of this. So that'll be very, very, very interesting to see. Actually, you mentioned a couple of names already, but I wanted to ask, like, you have maybe some successful campaigns that you can share as best practices.
Yes, definitely. We have a lot of case studies. We've worked some with the big brand names like MetaMask, PayPal, Hashflow, BitGet, all of the large names. And I mentioned MetaMask because they have seen the most results when it comes to transacting users. And I think their key there is consistency. So there are months that the industry is doing well and other months that the industry is not doing so well. This is how we fluctuate. So some projects understand that and some projects don't understand that. So consistency is one. And then smaller projects that I've seen that have also done well are the ones that are ready to improve. So to change their product. That's a gaming project that also performed well, but because they were consistent, like they continued the campaigns even though they didn't see the best results initially. And what they did is they improved their sign-up process. So they saw that it's too complicated for the user to sign up and actually play their game. So instead, what they did is they just improved the entire flow, and that led to better results. So we have a few case studies I can share with anyone that is interested as well, if they want to see specific numbers, click-through rates, and so on, and the cost per acquisition and more, if they want to dig a little bit more there.
Do you have any of this like case studies added anywhere? Because maybe we can add them to the description of the episode, and
I can.
They can check them out.
Absolutely, I can share a link and they can access it, of course.
Perfect. Well, I'll make sure to add them to the description. Anybody that's interested, like please check that out. One of the last questions that I have for you, and it's something that I'm asking all my speakers, is if you can give me an example of a tool you would recommend using. It can be a book, a podcast, a newsletter, something that like helps you learn, get inspired, and so on. Like, so whatever you want to share, please bring all your resources on.
Well, I follow a lot of people, but at the end, I would follow my own discerning intuition as well. So I think it's important also to discern. There's so much noise in the space, a lot of newsletters, a lot of podcasts. Yours is the best. And a lot of things, everyone has something to say on a Twitter post or anything. So I think it's important to discern. And also, of course, we always say do your own research, but that's like, even that is hard to do sometimes because there is a lot of noise. So even if you do your own research, you may end up with like the wrong idea. So it's important also to be a bit more intuitive as well and to make the right decisions according to your also personal beliefs. I follow a few. I like Bankless a lot. We also have our CEOs and co-founders newsletter, Proof of Growth. I recommend the people to find out more about it. I can also send you the link. Great input when it comes to marketing, when it comes to understanding a little bit more on how to grow in the Web3 space, not only through the perspective of marketing, but also programmatically. So through the data, use of data as well. That's a little bit more about it. But I think the most important thing is to do your own research, but also to base your research to what you really believe and you like on a personal level and values as well.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but something else I want to shill is the fact that your co-founders are women as well.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, got it right. Good.
Both of them. Yeah.
Eva, before we wrap it up, like, can you tell us like where can people find you?
You can find me, first of all, on LinkedIn if you want to just connect. But if you want to learn a bit more about Persona, persona3.io. If you want to check our dashboard, ads.persona3.io, pubs.persona3.io if you're a publisher. So if you want to monetize your audience, we also work with both ends. And again, you can follow us on Twitter. Make sure it's persona3.io as well. And they can always connect through a demo request or just ping me on Telegram or on LinkedIn. I'll be happy to support for any campaigns or just connect and discuss more about growth marketing as well.
Well, thank you so much for your time. I feel like this episode has been really cool. And right now, when we were recording this, I was even thinking that maybe right now I should actually label this episode as like super educational, general chats. So I think like I would definitely label this as super educational. Thank you so much again for being with me today, and looking forward to speaking to you again.
Thank you for the chance and to explain more about Persona and connect with you. I look forward to discussing again. Thank you so much for having me.
See you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to our Out of Ordinary podcast. If you enjoyed this episode and you would like to hear more content like this, then open up the podcast app and click on the follow or subscribe button. It takes less than 5 seconds and is the single best thing you can do to support the show and stay up to date to more marketing strategies that are being used in the Web3 space.